here on the visual. Hope you're enjoying that. We're going to look at some of the papers of past guests, material that's been out there and interesting. We're going to cover it, and I'll be pulling it up to share it with you. Hope you all are doing well. Live streaming is the future, and we're going to bring more of that going forward. Let's take a look at this one here. We've got the papers. Here they are. So I hope you can see these. I believe you can. Yes, you can. Very good. And I'm probably small in the corner. Should I make myself larger? Is there some way? It's probably the right size. Sometimes I'll bring myself out, but this one we're focusing on the papers. So this paper right here, we've got Melissa Ilardo. It's her paper. Also, let me turn it on Substack, the live. Before we go into the paper, I am looking to live stream on Substack. So let me go ahead and do that if possible. New live video. Will it be able to pull it up? Not sure how to do that. I am on Substack, which is a great service, and I'm enjoying a lot of articles there. I'll be sharing more with you as time goes on from people like Ilana Yorkiewicz, Hard Medicine, and others. Let's see. I'm on Go Stream with Live Stream. He is live currently. I'm going to generate a stream key. No, I already made one. Stream key yesterday. This is good. Some things we're going to need to fix in person. That's part of live. This is sending a video signal. Substack just needs to receive and publish it. Live video, live stream setup. Wait 10 to 30 seconds. Am I missing something? I should be streaming to all platforms. I'm going to use a screenshot here. Let's see if it works out. This is very important. This is part of the process. I'm going to showcase more of the process along the way so that you can see what I am doing. And do I put share screen? Wait for my face to appear in the preview. When you see yourself, press go live. Current live. So it's not receiving that. Don't end Riverside. Am I live on here? Yes, I am. And I am going to a custom RMTP. On Twitch, I might actually have a viewer. It shows one viewer, so long live Twitch. Good news, don't worry, I will be covering research papers real soon once I get Substack set up. I believe this is on Twitter. I'm going to take a screenshot here, long live ChatGPT, and figuring out the process on the fly, which is a very good thing. I am always using screenshots and looking to analyze things in person The video is looking a bit better. Riverside has Substack listed, but it's not sending it to it yet. I need to activate the custom RMTP. Click the gear. All settings. So much to manage. Kind of confusing a little bit, but that is fair. Should I leave Substack alone for now until I do another test run? I could do that. I'm going to give it one more check, see if I can find out what to do there. Custom RMTP. Button doesn't work. Not 100% sure. So I think we will figure that one out next time. If I generate a stream key, it'll be a different key. Stream is pending until broadcasting software connects. So we'll leave Substack alone for now, and we'll come back to it next time. And am I able to turn it off during the talk? I'm not sure. All right. Let's look at this paper. So first off, Salutogenomics, Embracing the Full Spectrum of Human Health. This one, Dr. Melissa Ilardo is on this article. She is part of it. And what are some important points from here? So currently we have modern genetics. It's very disease focused. It's so focused on disease versus handling things, solving the issues beforehand. And then if you're focused on disease, you're already late to the party. By the time you get there, then a lot has already happened at that point. So if that's the case, how are you going to be able to handle health better? You're going to have to look at it earlier. Dr. Azra Raza has been on the show, talked about preventing cancer before it gets to that first cell developing onward. Melissa and others here, they cover how genomics is usually centered on disease, but we need to focus elsewhere, because if you focus on disease, you're always after the fact. Protection and resilience traits. That's what's discussed in this paper. Resilience is a big one. If you have the ability to handle things, protect yourself from something beforehand, or be resilient to it, then you won't have the issue of needing to be getting to the point of having a disease, developing, metastasizing, and now you have to respond to it. That's a lot of effort. We don't want all that effort and the costs, and by that time you're late to the party, as it would be. We don't want to be there. You want to think what produces health rather than what causes illness. So if you're thinking what causes illness, your world is always about illness, people being ill, responding to people being ill, and you won't get that great. You can only get so far because you're focusing on illness. But if you're thinking what produces health, now you're thinking of abundance. This is almost like love versus fear, but now this is health versus illness, or abundance versus scarcity. If you focus on the scarcity side, you are limited because you can only go so far to manage scarcity. Now you're out of scarcity, and now you have to start thinking about getting somewhere. There's an idea of lifting yourself up slightly from the bottom of the bottom, but we as people, we're not here to be near the bottom of the bottom. We want to reach up and thrive in some way if it's possible. That would be the ideal. The implication here is that this concept weakens the genetic determinism and emphasizes context and adaptive variation. So it's not so much about what your genetics determine you to be, but about context of your life and adaptive variation, adapting to the world you are in. What can you do about it? Adjusting along the way. Trends in genetics. They covered quite a few trends in genetics right now. And resilience. This is a big one. Did I click on it? I did. I'm trying to highlight it. Am I able to highlight it? It went away. But resilience is a large deal because can't highlight it. But if you have genetic resilience, you can handle the world that comes to you. Cold, lack of oxygen, stressors, higher cortisol periods, lack of socialization, pressure, stressors, all these things. If you have some sort of resilience to them, you're better able to navigate through the world. Whereas if you do not, things will knock you out that will not knock other people out. A lot of populations have been analyzed here, like the Himalayan populations of Tibetans and Sherpas who have variants in genes related to hypoxia inducible factor HIF that affects the oxygen sensing pathway. They are more able to handle high altitudes than the average person. That is a type of resilience. Other person, I'm low on oxygen. I can't move. I can't do anything. These individuals more likely to be able to handle low oxygen, high altitude locations. This is important because I don't know if you've noticed in life, but every time we see something that's an extra strength for a certain group of people, we tend to look at it, and sometimes we've been able to supplement or find ways to push towards whatever those benefits are to give other people strength in the same way. That's a big deal. That's substantial right there. We're giving more people strength, power, ability over time. And it's speeding up quickly because technology, AI, is looking at every little detail we can check on. And we have researchers doing more and more every year. This is a very good thing. So that's that one. Health versus disease genetics. Dr. Melissa Ilardo. We will have her back on at some time. Great guest. Wonderful research. Good energy with her content she puts out there. Good clips and whatnot. This one right here, A Chapter a Day, Association of Book Reading with Longevity. We've got Abney Babishi, Martin D. Slade, and Becca R. Levy. Now, this is an older paper, 10 years ago. I saw it. Association of Book Reading with Longevity. So, book reading. We've got books. We've got books here. I should switch to back to tab. This is accessing your camera. True. Let's see here. Close that tab. So on this one, let me close the share for a moment. Yes. No shortage of great content in the written space. The value of randomly picking out, let's say, Lost and Found, Helen Chandler Wilde, and reading it is substantial because I've been seeing quite a bit about if you read for an hour a day, you're building long-term type activity thinking versus scroll, short clip. Context switching is super draining for your thoughts and your mind. And by the end of the day, you'll have brain drain even if you're not physically tired. That's the case. And there's other examples. One day I'll do a book pullout concept, but for now, I'll leave that one alone. So let's go back to the paper we've got here at Chapter Day. There it is. So we've got the benefits. What I just pointed out. Book readers live longer than non-readers with a dose-response pattern. More reading, lower mortality risk. So it's direct. More reading, lower mortality risk. It's associated with living longer. Now, some would say that the individuals that do read more also have a life that is better off, that allows them to read more, and so they live longer. Great. But if you want to look into adding more variables that coincide with people who have a good life, this works. Causation is number one, but correlation, there's something there. Correlation is not nothing. It is not nothing. The proposed mechanism is cognitive. Reading maintains cognitive function, and cognition predicts survival. Your thinking predicts survival. So if you maintain your cognitive function over time, which it takes effort if you want to read, even reading this paper, the current study hypothesized that book reading provides a survival advantage and that this advantage is mediated by cognitive engagement. It's even saying what I'm talking about. So, but let's say I read that paragraph and the next one. This is a deep work, one focused task, very valuable versus scroll. Context switch, bright colors doesn't energize. I'm actually more able to be energized right now using energy, talking, focusing on the camera, doing this setup than if scrolling, because this has agency to it. Agency is a big deal. You are doing it. It's in your hands. I'm focusing on one clear thing. I'm thinking about being on the, well, this is a separate thing, but the creation versus consumption side, there's a lot to it. So even though I should be getting more drained right now than if I was scrolling through short form videos, I don't think that is the case. It doesn't feel like that, and it's not the case. Whenever you scroll through, have you seen individuals that scroll through hundreds and hundreds of quick videos? There's no room for action or improvement after that. This is all drained, and you have to look at this first, because if it's not managed, now there's a weakness, there's a lack of agency, cognitive decline according to this paper, and now the chance of you coming out is very low. You being expressed is limited. We don't want that. We don't want that. We want the ability to adjust and try things and fix things if necessary. There's a lot of work that's needed in an existence, and to get there, you want to be on the cognitive strength side, not the other side. They studied from a variety of people. In the method section, they have a participation ship. 3,635 individuals followed over their lifetimes, and they looked at who died over what length based on their reading. Books outperform magazines, implying deep, sustained reading matters more than casual information exposure. So magazines are great, but they're even in life, think anything that's more short form is less advantageous for building up your thinking ability. Longer form, like a book, you have to keep with it in depth, stay on one track. That will be something that enhances your cognitive ability more than anything. The shorter it gets, the less it advantages you mentally. But magazines would be better than short form video if you were reading articles, for example. The claim is not information extends life, but that regularly exercising narrative comprehension and attention may protect the brain in ways that affect mortality. So it's not like the reading is now giving you extra years, but it's keeping your brain sharp so that you can handle life better as you go along. That's the way to look at it. It's not like exercise, though it is somewhat. Exercise gives you more ability over time, but exercise may actually extend life a bit more directly than that. Long live book reading. So that's what they covered in this one. This is from 10 years ago. And here's a graph showing the effect of book reading over time. You can see the difference in readers versus non-readers. This is over 11 years. Mortality, different, clearly different. And it shows. Nice image right there. All right, on to the next one. Long live research papers. I think this may be a thing where I cover a variety of them. How cool is that? And I like seeing new papers and new knowledge out there. And live streaming is fabulous. Let me check actually if anybody is on these platforms. We do have a couple of viewers. We do have some viewers on different platforms. That's kind of neat. That is neat. All right. Let's continue forward. Later, I'll check how they all came out as far as the footage. But for now, I'll focus on great material. Here we've got optimism being associated with exceptional longevity in 2 epidemiologic cohorts of men and women. Louina O. Lee, Peter James, Emily Zavon, Eric Kim, Claudia Trudel Fitzgerald, Avron Spiro III, Francine Grodstein, and Laura D. Kubzansky. That is a great package of people. So optimism, being upbeat, thinking things can go well, positive in nature, a lot of advantage to that. I've always seen that. It's very advantageous. You have to look at it that way, and then the progression from that can be substantial. Higher dispositional optimism strongly predicts reaching age 85 plus with roughly 15% longer lifespan in the highest group. That's a big change. That's a big change. So 15% longer lifespan in the highest group as far as if you have that upbeat, optimistic attitude. What a difference it makes. The effect remains even after controlling for exercise, smoking, and other health behaviors. It's separate from those. Your optimism is separate from those 3 other categories. Pretty substantial and worth thinking about. If that's the case, having a upbeat belief in life, thinking things can go well, is such a difference maker. The open question: direct physiological pathway, stress and inflammation, versus long-term decision patterns. Which one of those is the effect on that you get from optimism? So direct physiological pathway, stress and inflammation, obviously, not obviously, you will have reduced stress and inflammation if you are more relaxed, lower cortisol, you breathe more, you think there's something great to be there. It's a belief. And then, does this affect your health daily, or does this affect your decision patterns daily, which then affects your longevity? Maybe a combination of both. This paper looks at the psychological trait of optimism as a health variable, just like having a higher VO2 max or having more muscle. So things like this can benefit you in the long term. Optimism, reduced risk of premature mortality, and can it give you more longevity? What would be my thoughts on this? Should I assert more things? Sometimes I wonder if I should assert more. My thoughts on optimism are that you're giving a belief to yourself that there is more to reach for. And if you don't have that, it's like a physiological foundation built in. Now there's only a certain base you can drop to. because you believe you can jump up from that. But if there's no optimism, and if there's even pessimism, now your base is down here. And so anytime you fall, you can fall all the way down to here. Versus if you feel like things will work out, or this is just a primary minor setback, you can bounce off from here. It's not as big of a drop, is the way I would view it. And when you have something you think, I would live for this, or I will try for this, you're saying to the world, I would like to be here. I belong here. You'll go into places. You will socialize. You'll be more bold. You'll say things. You'll do what I'm currently doing, which is communicating or putting out your messages. But if you're not optimistic, why would you do any of that? You would think it would all be canceled immediately. And so you wouldn't do all the factors of life that can bring you more energy and friendship or figuring out things. Why would you figure out things if there's nothing that's worthwhile? It gives a lot of direction. You become more like a vector with direction in that case. This paper is from 2019. Okay, so about 7 years ago, 7 years ago, associated with exceptional longevity. And they made connections between people who were optimistic and how long they lived. Very cool one there. Sometimes in papers, it's good to look at the bibliography, see if you recognize anybody from other work. Sometimes I do, not always. And when you do, it's interesting. Or if you see somebody from the paper in the references, that's nice. That means they have a continued effort of work. It's nice to see. Onward to the next one. I have to keep these shorter. I had in mind to keep these at a certain pace. I think I will also let some of the individuals know. Obviously, these are older, some of them, but that I have checked out or that we are covering their paper because that's pretty cool and it's uncommon. This one is by Conway, famous paper, 2005, Memory and the Self. So autobiographical memory is not a passive record of the past. It's not passive. So you adjust how you view yourself from the past to the future. The working self, current goals and identity actively shapes which memories are accessible. So what you are doing currently, your goals and identity, alters the memories that are accessible from before. You pick a certain category of them based on what you're doing right now, and then that's more of what's clear to your mind. Even though there's a lot of memories, you're not connected with a lot of them. Now, let's say later you change what you're doing and your working self is something different. You might unlock some other memories that you had forgotten about, and then they will match the story you are currently working with. So it depends on the story you're currently working with. Your brain adapts to it. Humans balance coherence and accuracy. A stable life story is psychologically necessary, even if imperfectly true. Our mind wants to have a stable life story, and it's necessary, even if imperfectly true. Some sort of way to match up what's happened and move forward. That's how the mind works. These are the pieces. This was what happened 4 years ago, 7 years ago. Okay, how does this function as part of what I'm currently doing and what I've done? The brain maps it out. It doesn't set up an awkward path of this is not part of it. This is a mix up. This was not meant to be. It tries to create something coherent so that we can work directionally again, connected to that optimism paper. We're looking to find some way toward what we're looking for. Memory functions partly as an identity maintenance system, not just a fact storage system. Not just a fact storage system. So identity maintenance. So you might think it's just a record of what happened, but it's actually what is my identity and how do I keep it going system, which is a little different and more adaptable than when you think of memory being, oh, it's just in the drawers. It's not that straightforward. The working self. This part right here mentions the working self, goals and self-knowledge, maintaining coherence. So the heart of the working self-goal structure is a principle of conservatism, the purpose of which is to resist goal change. You have a certain goal. You don't want things that throw off all the effort you've put in. You have a direction, a goal, and if the memory didn't do this to maintain coherence, you'd be getting thrown off left and right. And how would you build something that way? That's like if you were building a construction project and every hour you started leaning in a different direction as though that project was not the main thing to do. It would never finish. You would never get that project. It's an important part there. Coherence over time. Memory accessibility. We think we're easily able to access most of our memories, but some of them will disappear for a while, be pushed away, come up at some time that a smell brings them back, or a moment, or some sort of selective pressure will bring those memories back to mind. Great paper here, and an extensive one. Memory inaccessibility. If you're wondering about memories that cannot be accessed, then they talk about that as well. And this paper is from 21 years ago, and references a lot of Conway's own material. As you can see, Conway. So he is a force, or was a force, in this category. Onward we go. Now, some of these papers connect, but they don't all connect, but I do find connection points between them. And it's neat to look into them. Let me check if there's any sort of update on the live stream. Twitch, good. I wonder if I should load up Twitch to see. Who knows? The last one I did after the live stream, I saw comments. Maybe at some point I'll figure out a way if there is a comment to see it during the live stream. That would be neat. What kind of technology that would be? Amazing technology. Large language models can infer psychological dispositions of social media users. This is by Sandra. Sandra Matz has been on the show, Mind Masters. The book is back there. And this is one of her papers about how large language models, LLMs, the chatbots or models, can infer psychological disposition from the user because they do great analysis. I've done so much analysis on transcripts and text and content about people or myself, and the amount of information there is off the charts. You can find out so much, especially if you're a person that really gets value from translating concepts or figuring out what someone is saying or trying to say something more smoothly for a certain kind of person. Highly valuable. If you already do that automatically, then it's not as big of a deal for you. But I have found a lot of use in analyzing all kinds of text or messages or words and seeing what's actually being said. Now, the LLMs can infer big five personality traits from ordinary social media text with meaningful accuracy. That's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These 5 traits can be figured out in good amount, meaningful accuracy. I've done this quite a bit with various talks, and the amount of information it will say about someone's extroversion or their agreeableness and examples of what they said that represent that tells you a lot. Now, this has to be somewhat recent. I don't know what year it is. 2024. So quite recent. Now it's even more advanced. We're at higher level LLMs now in 2026. And so they can figure out quite a bit. I could put some of this paper into an LLM and it might tell me what kind of personality would write the paper, but not exactly, because it's a research paper that has a certain form. So it would average out a lot of people's personalities that way. You would not see all of their personality in this paper because it's meant to be a research paper. It'll be a bit more logical than most people are by default, and so on. Accuracy is modest, but well above chance and highly scalable. I'd say the accuracy is getting better and better. Personality predicts behavior, persuasion, susceptibility, and decision patterns. Those can all be analyzed. You should, if you have a talk, a recording of yours, or writings of yours, or writings from other people, you can put them in, have them analyzed with ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it might be, and you can figure out anything you would have missed. You can say directly, what did I miss from this discussion? And find out what you missed. The implication from this paper is everyday language unintentionally reveals psychological structure that AI can cheaply extract. The language says it. So if you write it a certain way, I write a very certain atypical way, and it says a lot about myself. And when I get messages back from ChatGPT or other LLMs, I don't resonate with the way it talks unless I put in custom instructions to adjust it. And that's because my communication is so varied from that, which is good. You want to have your own form as you go through. Wonderful to have Sandra's paper here. This is from 2024. I use LLMs so often, so this resonates with me, and I always do the psychological analysis. So that's why I really thought this would be useful to present. Look at that. You can figure out, as you can see from the paper here, openness. It's showcased conscientiousness, extroversion. This is using different, 2 different models at that time. And look how close they are to the self-reported one, which is green. Not bad. Extroversion, within range. Conscientiousness, getting there. Neuroticism, agreeableness, openness. I guarantee these are highly improved from then. Highly improved based on the new models and how far the analysis has come. I would almost do the check of that, but I would guarantee highly improved, which is wonderful. Great imagery. Again, it's using, this was GPT 3.5 and 4. Very wonderful. And we would hope to have Sandra back on the show. That would be great. Here she was with Heinrich Peters at Columbia Business School, Columbia University. Fabulous. I like to point out these things. I don't know anybody else who is showcasing research in this way. Now, is it going to be as popular as a certain kind of click, click, click type of content? Not so much, but we have to do what suits us or what matches us in some way. And making click, click, click type content doesn't resonate with me. I used to make shorter, entertaining clips years ago and could still do that. But there's something about it that is hollow. I'd say hollow. It doesn't have the this is going somewhere feeling, or this connects with reality so much feeling. Seems a bit gimmicky, which entertains many people in the short term, but never comes back 2 years later, 5 years later as something that was great or something to build on. That's what I'd say. I have a few more papers. I'm going to do 3 more. I can do 3 more. I'm looking at them. Great. This one here, I just picked it highly because it's high entropy world, and I used to have the channel Armentropy. The economics of clarity, a new protocol for value in a high entropy world. This was by Daria Zaitseva in Ireland. And when is this from? We don't have a date. Oh, 2026. It says in right here at the Poise Cognitive Lab. But interesting on this one because I value entropy, but also we as humans fight against entropy over time. I've talked about it quite a bit with many different guests. Speaking of guests, before I go into some of this paper material, it will be cool in live streams to have some past guests popping back in for discussion. This could be the location. We pull up a paper, we talk about it, talking about their book or a concept, having it be an intellectual space where things can connect. Who knows? Maybe multiple at the same time would be neat. This is nice to see. And all you can do in life is reach for something, try things, figure it out. And not everybody will figure out all the pieces in the smoothest way, but is it doable in some way? Yes. Yes, it is. So here we are. We've got clarity in a high entropy world. So the modern constraint is not information scarcity, but overload. This is very clear now. We don't have a shortage of information in 2026 at all. Nobody says that. Zero people. Complete opposite. So we have information overload. People can barely keep up and manage all of them. So you as a person managing them, if you do well, that's the big differentiator in a lifetime. This produces a cognitive liquidity crisis. It's difficult turning information into decisions. If you're able to do that and do things or make things or have agency, like I talked about earlier, that's a big deal. You're putting yourself in the, I'd say, top 10 percentile just by that, because so many are knocked out by the overload of information and brain drain from the short form video and other sources. So if you are able to keep out of that category and put yourself into deep work in some way, makes a big difference. From this paper, the proposed response is filtering. You want to exclude most inputs. So a lot of stuff you have to not bring in, because once you bring it in, now your brain has to process it. It's like processing, as Brian Johnson recently said. He described social media as like a junk or a poison when he took a break from it. So that's not good. If you get that feeling, that's not a good sign for the social media world. And then the other response is you got to take a stance. You have to commit to a concept or something you're working on. And then synthesis. You want to compress things into a narrative. So just random information all over the place, not so useful in 2026. You want to put it into a clear narrative, which is something I tend to do as a synthesist of sorts. You want to have a stance on things. Like I would have a stance that books are great. Knowledge is good to build on. It's good to build something that can build on other things versus something that's hollow. I have quite a few stances. Maybe I'll do a whole talk just on my stances. But that's the second one. And then filtering, exclude most inputs. You have to leave a lot out if you want to be sharp, because you can't just have every input and then process it. That's too much for the average person or anybody. Controversial claim from this paper right here on entropy. Clarity itself becomes a competitive advantage in information dense environments. If you can have clarity in your life, clear vision, clear thought, clear mind, big competitive advantage in 2026 because there's so much information out there. You will set yourself apart immediately. It's a different kind of competition now versus 100 years ago. Life is always changing. Always changing. We've got two more we're covering right here. Fabulous content, and some of them are connecting. I like when I get into that space where different things are connecting. That's why it's good to have more than one at a time. I mentioned scrolling a few times. It's good to not be part of that program. It's almost like you're in the program. of scrolling. So, belief offloading in human AI interaction. Rose Gingrich, Divya Mehta, and Umang Bhatt at Princeton, Eindhoven, and Cambridge 2026. Belief offloading. So, this paper right here is about outsourcing information versus outsourcing belief. When you talk with a chatbot or LLM, outsourcing information, okay, versus belief. Big difference. Information is just dun dun dun. Belief is I believe this. What are my beliefs? Can they be adjusted? Repeated artificial intelligence use can lead people to accept conclusions without owning the reasoning. You just go with it. Oh, something said this. Sounds good. And you just go with it. If you don't look at the reasoning as well or have it in the back of your mind, that's not great because now you can just be led in some direction. This can occur unintentionally, especially when answers are confident or ranked. Right. So you see a ranking and you think, oh, okay, that's the one at the top. I believe that. Not knowing that it's not based on as much as you may think. The main risk of that is erosion of epistemic agency, holding beliefs one has not personally evaluated. You start to believe things that you didn't even process through because you read them in a certain order or a certain way. Now you believe them. That might be risky because at some point it may come back against you because you didn't check them in full. A belief in life. What is a belief? Acceptance of the truth, reality, or validity of something. You don't want it to be adjusted by AI. If you just hand off all your thinking to AI, this can happen. This is one of the risks people are talking about. If too much is given to AI from a person automatically, and it's more than just, can you help me with this issue? Now it's changing your life path in a way you might not have wanted, and you'll look back later like, why did I do that? And then it's not that the AI is taking responsibility for your whole existence. It's worth taking into account. So that's beliefs being adjusted by AI. That's a recent paper, 2026. And the last one I want to look at here, I have covered it a little bit one time, I believe, or a similar one, including Kaylita Denton, guest on the show previously. You have Ram, Uri Lieberman, and Marcus Feldman, Cultural Evolution of Conformity and Anti-Conformity. This is from 2020. 2020. So wonderful Kaylita was on the show. And we talked about cultural evolution. This is one of the papers connected to that. Some of the concepts from this one. Cultural transmission does not simply converge on the majority. We talked about that previously. There is not just the majority. It can be multiple groups, and you can have multiple convergences. Conformity and anti-conformity can produce cycles, fragmentation, or unstable equilibria. So it may go a certain way and then adjust over time up and down. Conformity and anti-conformity are not just flat. These are the conformists, these are the anti-conformists, and we stay with that. Increasing visible role models, like in online media, changes whether behaviors stabilize or oscillate. Role models make a big difference because now you have a stable base that people look at as, okay, we're going to go with this. You have a strong conformity presence based on that, but then it also does build up an anti-conforming group when there is such a strong figure. I think it strengthens both of them. And many online social trends may be structural transmission effects rather than randomness. Yes. So it's not so random. The social The social trends space appears random to the unseeing eye, but structural transmission effects are happening. It's starting from certain groups, certain people, then supported at a certain percentage, and then goes off to the general public and becomes popular. It's not so random. Most things analyzed in heavy detail lose their, oh, this just happened randomly type feel. But the internet has always supported videos where somebody's like, oh, this happened. Oh, I was surprised. That's a popular category more so than this led to this, which led to this. The majority of people don't find joy in that. They would rather be seeing somebody that was surprised and had lower agency and something happened, because then that could happen to them as well, because most people have lower agency in terms of their media consumption and the way they feel while they're using it. So somebody that's too managing and says this leads to this leads to this is not favored highly, unless you're really making a good point or bringing a lot of value. That's going to be less of a category of interest. And then that's the one we started with. So that's a set of 8 papers we checked out on this live stream. I don't know if these lives should have numbers on them. It's hard to say. These will be separate from the general interview episode or discussion episode numbers. I have no idea. But generally in life, the labeling is not a big deal. It's like if Google was called something else, it would still be that. So I may give it a number. I may leave it as is. But for the most part, glad about how it came out. Glad to share that. Slightly, we might adjust slightly the coloring, but generally the visual, very good as far as this setup. And we'll move forward with it from there. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll add in more and get to something more substantial in the intellectual space. When you have something, go with it and build upon it. And don't let you be the one who's limiting you in some capacity. If the world tends to be limiting in some capacity and you go to counter it, that's great. But you are not the one to be limiting yourself. Keep that one in mind. A lot of concepts to bring forward. That's all we're going to include on this one. And next time we'll try to add that Substack live back in. Maybe I'll test it out in between then. Until then, hope you enjoyed this one.